Welcome, dear friends. Here we are with another study of the book Green Light by the Spirit under Luiz through the mediumship of Francisco Cândido Xavier. What a blessing to be here with you today. And we'll be studying the book Green Light, chapter 48. And chapter 48 continues talking about visiting one another, being in company of one another. Last chapter talks about visiting those who are sick. This time it's just about when you go to someone's home and some unexpected things happen, what do you do? It goes in line of what to do in general in life. They're very good practical tips for you and I today. Without further delay, chapter 48. He says, avoid questions asking questions or making comments when the hostess or the hosts are looking at their mail. Let's say you go to, unquote for now, you go to someone's home, you arrive at a time where they're receiving the mail, talking to the postal carrier, or they're looking through things. We don't make comments. We don't ask questions. What is this? What is that? We respect people's privacy. The next one is very interesting because many of us may be guilty of intervening, of having an opinion. Let's see what Andre Luiz says. He says, be discreet and respectful when unexpected arguments take place among the family members. Unquote. How many of us don't know what to do and freeze, which is the appropriate part of the appropriate response. It says, be discreet and respectful, which brings to mind the idea that, let's say, if you're visiting someone and they start arguing, very common among family members. Remember, we are spirits that reincarnate together. Sometimes we have difficulties. We have a story together to reconcile, and sometimes we push each other's buttons. So he says, we witness that and we don't know what to do. One thing is be discreet and respectful. Being discreet can mean many things. One example would be you don't tell others what happened. Yeah, remember, I went to cousin X and they start fighting about Y and Z. And then when you get back home, would be discreet. The thing happened, die within us. That helps us prevent the gossip and the negative effects of the gossip. Now, another thing we can do as spiritists, we know that there's always spirits around us in many situations. So if someone is fighting in front of you and they're arguing, verbal argument, before it escalates, we can pray to the guardian angels of those people so that they can be enveloped in a loving, soothing, comforting towel, an embrace of love that would soothe the situation. And of course, we will have to intervene if it becomes physical and call 911, but let's not let it become to that point. Let's flip the coin. If someone's in our home visiting us, how would they feel if we start arguing with our family members and friends? So there's always two sides to this. As you go into someone's house and you're discreet and respectful, if they start arguing. The other point is if you have someone in your home, I want to say you, I'm not accusatory you, just you as you and I, don't start arguing with them. We are also mindful and kind to the ones who visit us. And he says, if an animal or an insect appears in the place, do not scream and be a big cause of scandal, right? A lot of us are afraid of certain animals, and then we just can find a humane way to dispose of them, and we don't need to cause an alarm and scare everybody because remember, we are wired for connection. We are emotional beings. We are beings here living the law of society, and there's emotional contagion. So if you arrive to a place, we talked about last time when visiting others who are ill, but that goes also for people who are not ill. If we bring sadness and melancholy to where we go, that emotion will be spreading to others as well. So if we freak out because an insect showed up, now everybody freaks out as well. He says, avoid commenting on negative things, such as if someone falls or a piece of china is broken, a piece of kitchen items is broken. So we don't go to people's home and start pointing out what's wrong with their house. And most definitely, we don't video people falling and put it out there for others to laugh with us, because that's not kind. If you fell on the street, the last thing you need is random people from all over the world watching and laughing, because that's not helpful, especially if you got hurt. So we don't make comments. What do we do? If we go to a place where someone falls, we help them. We may have to take them to the physician, to the ER. Hopefully, it's not that bad. But instead of being in the side of evil, we become in the side of good. If we notice that there are needs, a lot of us are very afraid of asking for help. A lot of us are ashamed when we don't have things. But if we see there's a need, maybe there's a way we can discreetly help that family member. If they're lacking something, or if all of their china is broken, then we can kindly and lovingly find a way and pray for the inspiration of the good spirits to help us find a way to help them. Let's say you're there and other people arrive. You're visiting someone, more visitors come. This is what he's saying, especially if we don't like one another. If visitors arrive during your visit, do not leave the house immediately. If those are people who you do not know, you're not perfectly attuned to, or you're not familiar with who they are, stay for a little longer in the place you're visiting, showing a testimony of cordiality and respect. He's saying, okay, let's say someone you don't know arrive. We don't just run away from the house. We stay a little bit longer. We be polite. We are polite. Manners matters. We've forgotten a little bit about manners, about thank you, you're welcome, being polite, certain mannerisms, certain noises, certain hygiene issues at the table in other people's homes. We need to revisit some of that, because we never hear of any of the books of Angel Luiz that says the good spirits or the higher spheres are disorganized and they are rude. They're actually very respectful, very discreet, and they have manners, right? So we don't run away just because we don't like them or we don't know who they are. Now, this is one that we do a lot. I see it here in many occasions at work, at my friend's house, at the Spiritual Center. We see this often, and this is due to our curiosity. Because what we are doing here on this life is Spiritism brings us the opportunity to live a better life today so that we can end up better in the spiritual realm, which is the true life. It's showing to us what happens when we don't and what happens when we do well following God's laws. And curiosity is one of the things we have to curb. When we talk a lot because we can't deal with silence, even for a second or two, we end up asking questions. We're not discreet, we're indiscreet. We ask questions that are not relevant, and there's nothing we need to know. And practicing patience, practicing indulgence. Go to the book Jesus in the Home by Neil Lucio. He shows that Jesus didn't speak that much. But when he spoke, he meant each word. He did speak, of course. He cared for each and every person who came his way lovingly, in direct words at them. But he wasn't like us, blah, 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 because we can't deal with silence. He allowed each and every apostle to talk amongst themselves, to express themselves. Then he said something. If he's our guide and our model, discretion is one of the things we want to work on. And this is the next paragraph. He says, when meeting with those who are not familiar to us in the place you're visiting, let's say someone arrives and you don't know them. Remember, you just see this person coming into your friend's home, you don't know them, you feel like going away. Andrea Luiz says, stay a little bit longer. And then now, if they're not familiar to us, Andrea Luiz will say, never ask questions such as, who are they? Are they from your family? What are they doing here? Or even, do I know these people? Because we do that. Sometimes we are like, who are they? What they're doing here? We are jealous, we're curious, we feel threatened, we are creating these narratives in our minds. How do you know this person? And he said, don't ask those questions. If it's meant for us to know, then the spirits will inspire the host to let you know, introduce you. Then maybe you can strike a conversation with that person. But he says, when meeting those we're not familiar with, never ask questions such as, who are they? Who are they in their family? What are they doing here? Do you know this person? Same thing. If you were the one arriving at someone's home and there was already a visitor there, how would you feel about being bombarded with questions, especially from strangers? It's always, how would I feel in that situation? Let's say you arrive in someone's home and they're about to leave. That's the next part. If the hosts are about to leave, or the people you're visiting are about to leave, in the moment you arrive, then we should renounce the pleasure of the visit with them, letting them be free. We don't say, where are you going? I came here to see you. You need to stay. Andrea Luiz specifically use this allowing them liberty, letting them free. The same way, let's say you have a commitment, you have something to do in your realm of life, and then you're leaving a home, someone's arriving. How would you feel if the visitors made you stay? Now you're not going to the commitment you had before. So we have to be mindful. Now, when we visit someone, what should we do? He says, no matter where the visit is, quote, whoever visits someone should always bring with them optimism and comprehension to be used in any circumstances. Either you're visiting someone's home, you're visiting a hospital, you're visiting a nursing home, you're visiting whatever. He says, always bring optimism and comprehension. There's nothing worse than being visited by someone whose spirit animal is Eeyore, in a funny way, right? They're always complaining, they're always negative. He says optimism and comprehension. So we keep that on our pockets so we can dole it out and we can be kind in any circumstance we have. We want to be optimistic. How many of us don't get the opportunity to be alive today and to visit someone, to have our faculties, to be able to walk there or take the metro or have a car or move our limbs to be able to transport ourselves from one place to the other easily. Being alive is joyful, friends. It's a blessing to be alive, not only to be alive, but to be alive and to know of these teachings so they can help us do what we came here to do within our reincarnatory plan, within our families, within our communities, which includes this meeting we have every Thursday morning with Andrea Luiz. We thank him. We thank Chico, Xavier for their dedication. I'm very blessed to be here with you. And don't forget to share, to like, to subscribe so that others can benefit as well from these teachings. Dear friends, much joy, much light between now and then. God willing, I'll be back with you next week. Until then, stay well, stay safe, and I'll see you soon.